Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss a rumour that got a lot of people very excited yesterday evening. People were reporting that reliable sources were telling them that Rishi Sunak was planning to call the election either today or Monday. It doesn't seem to have happened today, does it? So what would the logic be in doing this? And more importantly, should we actually take this rumour seriously? I mean, in terms of whether it would make sense, there'd be some logic. In fact, I suppose there are three advantages for the Tories as I see it. The first is that as bad as the polling is, it's not going to get any better over summer, or it's not likely to. I can't see the future. Anyone looking at the long-term trend in the polls has seen that it's been getting worse and worse for the Tories. So holding the election earlier rather than later will always be better for them. The second advantage is so that they can try and avoid a bigger disaster at the end of next week. One of the reasons they should have had the election on May the 2nd, or even earlier, was to avoid having people use the local and mayoral elections to vote anti-Tory tactically as a protest vote. Now, if they could do that with an actual general election, these voters don't feel the need to punish their local candidates. So if Sunak announces the election date before the local elections, he can get part of this benefit still. I don't think he would eliminate tactical voting in the local elections. But if people know that they can make themselves heard at an actual general election because they've got a date set, it may be that fewer feel the need to vent next Thursday. And that will put less pressure on his leadership, because if he genuinely fears that terrible results could result in a coup, then calling the election not only gives his party a chance to avoid really catastrophic results next week, but means that the rebels won't have time to oust him because the election date will be set. The third advantage helps him avoid having to show how his Rwanda plan works in practice. Sunak claims that he has already booked the flights, suggesting that contracts have been issued. However, he hasn't named the carriers. Now, far be it from me not to believe the Prime Minister, but he does have a bit of a habit of lying now and then. What if he doesn't have the carriers? What if even with his bill, he still doesn't have the physical means of sending anyone to Rwanda? Now that he's persuaded people that it is going to happen, he could, under those circumstances, call the election before it's really put to the test. It would also explain why he didn't want to call the election for May the 2nd, because his Rwanda bill was still bouncing around Parliament, although he could have sped up the passage through Parliament if he wanted to. Isaac Levidow, the Tory chief strategist, was in Downing Street yesterday as well. This will certainly have helped fuel the idea that maybe Sunak is getting ready to call the election. So there is some logic in calling the election this weekend. I remain unconvinced because there are a whole host of reasons to be sceptical about this rumour. The first is that although this rumour was flying around social media yesterday evening, it seemed to reach something of a crescendo. And honest people were insisting this was coming from normally reliable sources. You know, I'm not seeing major anticipation in terms of the reported news. The buzz is limited. In fact, I've not really seen a lot of it going around today. It's also worth bearing in mind something else. Recently, there have been a few stories in the news where there was a real anticipation for something. It's like, oh, get ready for this. This thing's going to happen. We're going to have this announcement, including at one point, there was going to be an election announcement, never materialised. An article in the New European sets out how we might get a rumour coming from normally reliable sources, which then turn out to be complete nonsense. The author of this piece, the president of the Media Society, explains that sometimes if a reporter wants to check a rumour, so someone's told them about this rumour and they want to check it out, so they'll go and ask an MP that they know who might know. But if the rumour isn't true, obviously the MP they ask won't know. So then they will ask others who will ask others. And before you know it, everyone is getting messages from multiple sources about, oh, have you heard this rumour? And so because you're getting this from multiple sources, it sounds like it's a real thing. But in reality, it's just the result of everyone asking everyone else about it, and it's going around like wildfire. It's actually been suggested that this trick has been used deliberately by unscrupulous journalists to start rumours they know to be untrue, but to get politicians talking about it so that they can then report on it. They can say, oh, according to sources, we've heard this. But the implication in the article is it can be done accidentally as well. You know, with honest intentions, a reporter who genuinely hears a rumour, wants to check it out and just start something, you know, unintentionally. Either way, it makes sense that journalists would want to be probing Tory MPs for rumours or any hints of an imminent general election announcement. I said in a video, it was about a week ago, the general election timing is basically the number one political story right now. Policy isn't that much of a story because the Tories aren't implementing anything that's real. They're just pushing culture wars. Labour have already announced what they're going to do, you know, before the election is called. Now, the big speech this week was on nationalising the railway, but that's not new policy. They're just taking advantage of the fact that more voters are now paying attention. So they're now making major speeches on what they've already announced to a larger audience, hopefully. The public just wants Sunak to call the election. They're tired of this. And so the political story, which attracts the most attention right now, understandably, is speculation about when the election will be called and when it will be held, because we're completely in the dark. Sunak could announce it any day now, which is why I keep talking about it, by the way, because whenever there is, a rumour, it's worth me talking, because I want to keep reminding people, treat the situation as if Sunak could call the election any day now, because he could. Make sure you've got you're registered to vote. Make sure that everyone you know is registered to vote. Make sure you've got your voter ID sorted out, all of the usual things. Mainstream media journalists, however, are not all that bothered. Most of them, some are, but most of them are not all that bothered about reminding people they need to be ready for the election. It's more about competing for clicks, the same way I have to compete for clicks on social media. Just because these people are at the top of the media tree doesn't mean they have a captive audience. In fact, it could be argued that the 24/7 nature of news reporting and the increased competition from ordinary Herberts like me being able to present current affairs means that the traditional journalists are having to be more competitive than they have in the past. And if there are no really exciting stories to report on, and it's too much effort to hype a less interesting story, then, some may well make up their own and start a Westminster rumour so that they can report on it. I strongly suspect this is what's happened here. But like I say, absolutely behave as if Sunak might call the election on Monday, because he could. Do make sure you're registered. Make sure you've got your voter ID. Make sure that people you know do as well. But I would be surprised if this turns out to be anything other than a Westminster rumour mill story. Yes, I think there are some advantages in Sunak calling the election now, but I think there were bigger advantages in calling it before and he didn't. I have serious doubts. If he does genuinely have a carrier for Rwanda, he will want to see the plane in the air before the election. It's just that we don't know he does have a carrier. I also don't think he's given up on the India trade deal either, which he would have to if he called the election on Monday. In fact, Sunak, ironically, is quite irritated by these stories. It's been reported a few times that he actually gets quite tetchy when these rumours fly around that he's about to call the election. Mind you, it's his own fault that these rumours start. Like I said, the most important domestic policy issue or politics issue right now is the timing of the general election. It's the thing that makes a difference. Rishi Sunak's announcements make no difference because he's not implementing any real policies. Labour aren't announcing anything new. We want the election. That's the only thing that changes politics now, the election, right? We're just in stasis until that happens. Sunak's lack of clarity is fertilising the ground for these rumours to take root. So Sunak might be annoyed at rumours like this flying around, but it's how politics works. If the government will not be clear on an issue of major public interest, like the election timing, then others will occupy that space with their own speculation. That being said, if Sunak does call the election, he'd better do so at a convenient time. Mid-morning is all right. Early afternoon is better. Someone tell him, please. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.